Hey guys, welcome to the Last Set podcast, number one podcast in all of Australia and in the world. Let's talk combat sports and fighting.
Today we are live from isolation.
Yeah, we're live from isolation.
We had recently, as you know, we're all in Perth right now. We had a situation over the weekend where I think it was before, where there was a COVID case, and then as of now, it's now spread. Funny enough, the gyms, a lot of the exposure sites were all right near where we live as well, especially for yourself.
Especially me, yeah.
And now for the next 4 days, we're going to be stuck at home. Neither of us are working right now, but the best thing is it's a hot time for combat sports right now, so we've got a shitload to talk about. So take it away, Jack.
Well, let's start with Ciryl Gane. So he did very, very well on Sunday, early morning for us. I think the main event, the main card started at 4 a.m. in the morning. And we got to see Ciryl Gane absolutely outperform Alexander Volkov. I don't think there was a single person that thought that was a controversial decision. He did very, very well. But what was very interesting was within 24 hours, we saw a very quick turnaround for Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane is now being confirmed to have an interim heavyweight title match against Derrick Lewis, which was a strange thing to think of since we were expecting Derrick Lewis to be fighting Francis Ngannou. And it's very strange since Francis Ngannou has only had the title for 3 months and there's already been an interim title taking place. So a little bit of a weird time, but fuck, as soon as you sent it to me early this morning, Joe, I was like, I'm not really that unhappy about it. I think it's sick. Interim title or not, I think Ciryl Gane undefeated in the octagon. He's doing incredibly well, got a lot of hype around him. He's only been in the sport for maybe 3 or 4 years and he's done incredibly well. And coming off a win over Alexander Volkov, who was supposed to, it was essentially supposed to be a title eliminator anyway. Fuck yeah, put him up against Derrick Lewis, so who's up for the challenge, and they'll then claim the interim belt, and then they can actually face off against the baddest man on the planet, Francis Ngannou, who apparently couldn't actually fight in July, August anyway. I think he wasn't looking for that quicker turnaround, which is fine. It was looking to be end of the year. I think Dana was the one that kind of put this forward and just said, who wants it? And they both put their hands up. So, fuck yeah, we got an interim heavyweight title match on our hands.
Well, I mean, it's a good time to really have it because after just beating Stipe, Francis has pretty much been on top of the world. And obviously, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with having the championship. And obviously, you have to defend it. Obviously, so what's going on right now is in the heavyweight division, he obviously has to fend off all of them. I kind of like this idea of having this interim championship between Derrick Lewis and Ciryl Gane, mainly because even though Ciryl Gane, he is ranked number 3, he still is quite young and relatively fresh in the UFC. He's only 9-0, I believe. So maybe 10-0 by the time.
No. I think he's 9-0 now because he was 8-0 beforehand, and now that he beat Volkov, I believe he's 9-0 now.
Yeah. Compared to Derrick Lewis, who's had much, much more time and fought a very, very high caliber range of fighters. He fought DC, he's fought Volkov as well, beat him. He fought Blades. So the idea of having this interim championship is not really entirely too much of a bad idea. But what's really got me a little bit curious is what's going on right now between Dana and Francis Ngannou's manager. There's a lot of back and forth going on in Twitter, and one thing that really Dana likes to do a lot is every time, his jump to excuses. Oh, he just doesn't want to fight. He just doesn't want to fight him. But there's a lot more reasons to why. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. So so that's what's a little bit, everyone's going back and forth with on Twitter right now. I mean, why not have an interim title fight? I mean, if there's anyone who deserves it, it's definitely Ciryl Gane. Is anyone who's right to challenge for it? Definitely Derrick Lewis.
Yeah, I mean Derrick Lewis, but like he obviously deserves the interim heavyweight title shot. I think some people have been questioning Ciryl Gane. I mean, based off who he's beat in his last 3 fights, so he's beat Volkov on Sunday. You know, he's fought Rosenstrike. It wasn't the most exciting fight that we were expecting. We were expecting it to be a lot more high paced and most likely a ferocious knockout that apparently didn't happen in that fight. And he also knocked out Junior Dos Santos. So, look, based off how many fights he's had in his short-term MMA career, you wouldn't immediately think, yeah, that guy is heavyweight title material. However, because it's the interim, I think it makes sense. Honestly, I'm not too worried about it because he's done so well in the UFC so far. He's undefeated, and I think if Francis Ngannou can't fight, why not keep Derrick nice and motivated, keep him warm, keep him active. Should get him to fight an absolutely killer like Ciryl Gane, especially very, very good on the feet. And if Derrick can beat Ciryl Gane, who's a lot more technical than Francis Ngannou, I would suggest. Certainly doesn't have the knockout power that Francis Ngannou has. I don't think anyone could actually put their hand up and say that they have the same kind of destroying power that Francis has, but he's very technical. He's very, very technical. And I think if Derrick Lewis can knock out or just dominate Ciryl Gane, then he can make the claim that he's not just a guy with dynamite in his hands. He can also beat someone technically, and he actually has the conditioning to beat him, which he may have lacked in past fights. So I'm actually ready for this fight. I think some people will be very quick to critique Ciryl Gane. However, the thing is, if someone asks you, would you like a title fight, even if it's an interim, no one's going to say no. And if they do say no, they're silly. They don't really care about their career too much. So fucking props to Ciryl Gane. He did very well against Volkov, who was a very, very good opponent. And I think by facing Derrick Lewis, it will also show the haters that Ciryl Gane is there to stay, and he's not just an undefeated prospect getting pushed too soon. He still has a lot to learn, but he's still able to compete with the very, very best like Derrick Lewis. So I'm stoked for it, dude. I'm very, very ready for that fight. I don't think we have a current ETA on that fight. Do we know the current date on that? We do know the date on that. What date is it?
That's actually what I wanted to bring up. And here's why I have more respect for Gane. It's on the 7th of August. He's literally got just over a month to prepare for this.
Very quick turnaround.
That's very, very quick. So I don't know, maybe because I always thought the Derrick Lewis Francis Ngannou fight was brewing for quite some time. I thought it was already planned. I was just waiting for the release date. And now all of a sudden we get this, and I was like, okay, so I feel like Dana really, really wants to either really build up or he really wants to build up this Ciryl Gane or Derrick Lewis or whatever the two, so they can have a much, much more higher profitable fight in the future when they face Ngannou. You know, interim champion versus champion. Those things are always destined to sell.
Do you think that perhaps that opens up the opportunity for an interim champion, of course, but do you think it opens up the opportunity for a Stipe Miocic trilogy with Francis Ngannou, and then next year the winner of that would face the interim champion?
Why not? Because I feel like people are more interested. I don't feel like people are as interested in seeing the trilogy between Stipe, because when Stipe fought Ngannou for the first time, he exposed holes in Francis's game, which was his ground game, and it was his defense, and he managed to hold on and absorb the shots. In the second fight, it was clear cut. You know, there was no doubt. Like Francis had showed that he'd improved. He showed that he was very dominant. He could be dominant on the ground. He was really good at fighting up against the cage. He managed to knock him out in spectacular fashion. It was highlight reel for him. So it kind of clear cut who was better. Now, it's not that I don't want to see. Um, I don't. It's not that I don't want to see Stipe versus Francis. I just feel like people would be more interested if he fought Gane or Derrick Lewis, mainly because the whole Derrick Lewis France fight was not,
It was very wishy-washy just because of Jones, I think. I think the Jones entering into that space made it very wishy-washy on who was going to be the next opponent. Was Jones going to slip in there before Derrick Lewis? And it's a weird predicament, but the Ciryl Gane versus Derrick Lewis fight for the interim heavyweight title fight, I'm so excited for that. August can't come quicker enough. That's a very, very cool fight for the heavyweight division. It's bringing a lot of really good attention to the heavyweights.
Mhm.